absolute historic moves in the gold and silver market. A lot of people are going to claim that they saw it coming, but I've got a special guest for you today. One of his associates reached out to me Tuesday of last week saying that he wanted to come on my show and give a warning that we could see a major pullback in the silver price. I then talked to him on Thursday. We arranged this live stream for today, Monday, but we all know what happened on Friday. His prediction came true. I'm starting to think this guy might have a crystal ball. I'm going to introduce you to Lior Gantz. He is the founder of Wealth Research Group. We're going to talk to him about why he saw this coming, but even more importantly, what he sees in the future. Lior, without further ado, welcome to Ron's Basement. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me back.
Yeah. So I told the story. What are the reasons why you saw this coming?
Well, it's one I didn't want to be right on, but look, I think it's a combination of a number of things that we saw. Of course, in the weeks leading up to last week, we saw unbelievable type moves in gold and silver. They started with the export controls from China, and then along with what happened with the Fed and going to trial with one of the Fed governors that Trump wants to fire, and Powell actually went to the courthouse. So there was an open front between the Fed and the Treasury Department or the White House. Mm-hmm. Then you had Davos, where Jameson Greer, who effectively is one of the masterminds behind the Trump economic policies, basically told the globalists that their time is up and that America is going in another direction, and they can either follow that direction or they can go their own ways. And I want to address that and how important that is. And then all of that led me to say, between everything we're seeing, it would take one more piece of news for this to all crumble. Mm-hmm. And then you had a Friday with three major news items. One, you had Truflation coming in with less than 1% inflation.
Yep.
Two, you had the Warsh nomination. And three, you saw the easing of tensions between the U.S. and Iran. Those three things, to me, were basically the justification for what we saw. Mm-hmm. And I think that it changes everything. And I'd like to explain more about what we heard in the cabinet meeting from Trump, and then what this means for gold and silver. But yeah, for sure, we are not going anywhere near where we were for a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's almost. Do you think silver was in a bubble? Let me ask you that question. Do you think this was the pin that pricked the bubble?
I think it wasn't a bubble so much as so. In other words, it wasn't a retail bubble. Mm-hmm. I do believe that you will see retail coming back to silver. So I don't think that this was the retail bubble. You also see that there's a different price for silver in the West and in China. So this is definitely not an American COMEX-led silver bubble. So no, I don't believe that. I don't believe this was like a bubble pricking. I think this was a big washout to build a new base.
Yeah.
And to go from there. There's so much more upside for both gold and silver, but I do think that we will be in a range for the coming weeks and perhaps even months.
Yeah. So I want to reiterate to our office, or to our audience, our office. We're in the basement office, but that Lior, and correct me if I'm wrong, you are still very much long-term bullish on the metals, gold, silver, and I'd imagine copper as well.
I am, and this doesn't change that.
Yeah.
At all. In fact, my year-end target for 2025 was 47. So we're definitely much better than that. It's funny. you're seeing like silver at $76 right now, and you're like with mixed emotions. But anybody you tell them 1 year ago, hey, how about on Trump's second inauguration, they like the 1 year anniversary, silver is above 75. What do you think? So I think we're in a bull market for commodities. We're in a bull market for precious metals, and I think what you saw was a release valve for many speculative bets and leverage bets, but the fundamentals have not changed in the least.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you think that because I'm hearing people throw around terms like 10 sigma, like this was a 1 in, I don't know, 10 quadrillion billion chance it could happen. Do you think it was engineered? And maybe you were insinuating that as you were just speaking that that this was somewhat possibly engineered to help save some of the shorts. I hear that theory being floated around quite a bit.
I'm sure there are irregularities with the moves up and down. I can't ascribe trillions of dollars moving hands just to a few spoofing trades or whatever else. This wasn't that. This is a big deal. So in the cabinet meeting, what Trump announced was the new deal. There was FDR's New Deal that basically created or birthed the nanny state in America in the 1930s and led to many of the structures of society and the economy that we have with us today. Mm-hmm. And Trump is erasing that and rewriting a new New Deal, Trump's New Deal, or the Republican New Deal, as he calls it. And I think that the most important part about it is that both Besant and Warsh were both mentored by Stanley Druckenmiller. And Stanley Druckenmiller hates Kenyanism and does not believe that the Fed should have so much power to do QE, QT, to send rates to zero, etc. And now you have a Fed treasurer, a secretary of the Treasury, with a nominated Fed chairman that both believe that the Fed's balance sheet should shrink dramatically, that the Fed should stick to doing the very basic things that a central bank should do and not override the Treasury and definitely not be independent of the Treasury. So that is a huge revolution because it means the ends of it's the end of bailouts. It's the end of liquidity injections. It's the end of trying to intervene in the free markets. And when you really understand how much of a revolution this is why Wall Street really is in a panic, because this generation of Wall Streeters that came up from 2008 up until now, all they know is that the Fed is on their side. Yeah. So for them to see a Fed treasurer or a Fed chairman that has the interest of Main Street at heart and wants to work with the Treasury Department, that is a massive, massive change. Mm-hmm. Between that and what you saw with inflation, I think that really changes how Wall Street will behave going forward. To them, this adds a lot of risk to the table because now they know the Fed will not be there for them. I think that will really change the way they allocate their portfolio between 60-40. They will probably go to 25-25, 25-25, or some combination of that. And we are in a revolution for the investment class. So that is the early innings of it, and you will see a lot more of it as we proceed in 2026 because a lot more is coming.
Yeah. So what you're saying is this habit that a lot of retail investors, Wall Street, have gotten into of thinking that there's a Fed put, that buy the dip, whatever. Are you saying that we could be in for some interesting times in the general markets as well going forward?
I do because see the inequality of incomes and of wealth in America has left the younger generation very confused about whether or not America works, because they see the generation above them and they see that it's very hard to reach the wealth that the boomers have had. But what they don't understand is that the boomers got rich not because of the American system, but because of the globalist system. Yeah. And so they falsely reject the idea of America, when all they're really saying is whoever hijacked America, we reject that. But they don't understand all the intricacies, and so they think that either Trump represents that rotten America instead of really represents rotten America, and they don't. And there are many, even in the right or in the Trump camp, that don't believe in government in general and just want to be left alone. And they're very isolationist. They're like, I don't care. Like, the government cannot do any good. As if, somebody like Scott Bessent, who ran the #1 hedge fund in the world, all of a sudden comes to the Treasury Department and he's a different person. Now he's has different attributes. So this generation is very much rejecting any idea, and it will take time for America to come back together and understand that what really the real success of America was when they were able to become independent of the British Empire, in terms of not just winning the independence war, but also becoming industrialized by way of tariffs, and having a massive industrial base starting right after the Civil War. And all of the people that wanted to detach themselves from the British Empire were assassinated. Alexander Hamilton, Abraham Lincoln, and then the president that President Trump is basically trying to emulate the most, William McKinley. So, and Trump almost was assassinated for this. So we are moving back into what works for the United States of America. And what that is having full control over the Western Hemisphere, looking to do good in the other hemispheres, in the old continent and in Asia, but not by shaping them to our way of life in America, but by telling them, you are the Chinese, you are the Japanese, you are the Turkish, you are the Russians, you have your own cultures. We believe our culture and our economy and everything else is better than yours, but we will not come and try to change you by nation building or toppling. We are here to extend our hand. We will not be suckers anymore in terms of financing all of your mistakes. And on the flip side, we will not ask you to become us. And so I think that is really the change. We are going back to what made America really rich between the 1870s and the 1910s, when you saw the Rockefellers and the JP Morgans and all these industrialists, Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, the Wright brothers, etc. This is where America excels, where it can innovate for the rest of the world, but not believe that it has to do for the world what it has to do for itself. So that is, I think, the crux of it. That's why you're seeing so much manufacturing coming back to America. You have the first aluminum smelter in 50 years. You're producing more steel than Japan for the first time in 25 years. You have 18 trillion in foreign investments committed, and I think that's just the start. The second part of this is what will happen when GDP starts printing 4, 5, 6%. Americans will be like shocked, and then you'll have a Fed chair that says, I don't see the problem. Why are we going to stop this boom economy? Because what Bernanke and Yellen and Powell taught Wall Street and America in general is, when you have rising wages, that creates inflation. That is so much bullshit. It's not even funny. When you have rising wages, that means money is flowing from Wall Street to Main Street. And I think that Warsh will not stop that. In fact, you may see higher and higher GDP prints with lower and lower rates.
Mhm.
And if that creates productive deflation, that's what you're going to have in America. So I really think that in the next 3-4 months, there'll be a lot of uncertainty regarding all of this. That's why I think gold and silver will trade sideways for a bit here and churn. Maybe even the dollar gets stronger as portfolios get liquidated a little bit, because when you settle mostly U.S. equities, you sell in dollars. So there's going to be a technical demand for dollars. But right after Warsh is allowed to give his vision, I think you'll have a lot of clarity as to where America's going, and in my view, that will actually be the restart of the second phase of this bull market for silver and gold.
So as I'm listening to you speak, and you give a great, I think, overview of a lot of things that are going on that I think represent that we're going through a period of change that maybe, me, I'm 55 years old, and a lot of our viewers, we're going through a period of change right now, like we've never really seen in our lifetime. From 1970, when I was born, up until feels like 2 or 3 years ago, things were pretty stable, but it feels like now, over the last couple of years, and especially now, based on what you're saying, that we really are going through a period of massive change that a lot of us may not realize until we've already gone through it.
Sure.
But the conventional wisdom, Lior, has always been that liquidity and money printing are good for gold and silver. And what I'm hearing you say is that maybe that won't be the case. And correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe with this new regime and this new kind of vision for the United States, that we won't have as many bailout programs and liquidity injections. How do gold and silver do well in this new environment?
Well, the real important thing to understand is that gold and silver have been led through this 55-year period of fiat currency system to a place that is not natural for them.
Yeah.
Silver is not even money anymore. Some people buy it as because they say, this is a precious metal, I want to own it. But governments have made it so that it's not money. And even gold to a degree is a reserve, but it's not, you can't really, now you have countries settling in gold. That's true, but they're not even settling in silver. So my answer to you is, as the dollar continues to lose its hyper-globalized era role, which is where it's been from 1993 onwards, where you had Clinton opening China into the World Trade Organization. You had basically after 2008 a whole new financial system. These are all symptoms of a bad system. And as we're going and correcting that system, you will see gold continuing to assert its place. And there's no fair market value where you can think of gold. What you can say is, okay, how much would it take to cover 100% of the currency supply, 50% of the currency supply, 20% of it? You can make your own fair market value metrics for it, but there is really nothing that is important. What's that's definite. What's really the best way to do it is to say, how much gold do you need to own personally, and then stick to that program. For me, I have always maintained that I want either 24 months worth of family household living expenses saved in gold and silver. In other words, just to give you like a round number, let's say it's $5,000 a month of living expenses. So 24, that's $120,000. And then you convert that to fiat physical gold and silver. You can do your own kind of mix. And when that number becomes less than 5% of your net worth, you should increase it to 5% of your net worth. And that has always been the goal for me. So I carry in ounces, in other words. Now, silver, because it's demonetized in such a large degree, it has so much upside. If any government, even one, would reinstitute it as money, that would make the price surely double from here to go towards the 150, 160. So I think that is really important to realize that upside still exists with silver, that re-rating as money.
Mhm.
So will they work better or less better if there's no bailouts? Is a great question, but the answer is we have 5,000 years of gold and silver to rely on, and what we know is that they are great at holding their value, and that is why you should own them, but not the way that you think. In your mind, you're owning them because fiat currencies are debasing. Well, what happens if you go to a system where fiat currencies are not debasing as much? The answer is still the same. If you want to hold your purchasing power, you need to own some gold and silver. So, but nominally, a lot of things can happen.
Yeah. I think it's a difficult concept for anyone, right? There's 2,000 people that are joining us live right now, even me, right? And I've been a gold and silver bug enthusiast for 20 years. I still think of this ounce of silver in terms, I price it in US dollars, like the dollar is the money, you would say. And the reality is different, right? Like you said, for 5,000 years, gold and silver have been the money. Why not price the dollar in terms of gold and silver, if that makes sense?
Or even better, you should look at the Dow to gold ratio.
Yeah.
Right now, when you hear President Trump saying, "Hey, the S&P 500 is trading at all-time highs," it had 50 all-time highs last year. It's true, but in gold terms, it's in a bear market.
Yeah.
It's back to where it was like 6 years ago.
Yeah.
So again, the idea is when you own gold and silver, you retain real value and not nominal value. So if the market tanks 30%, but gold only goes down 10% in a deflation, you've done much better by owning gold or silver.
Yeah. So, and I think maybe another way to say it is gold and silver are the measuring stick, right? Like I think we sometimes get confused and look at the Dow or look at the dollar or the yen or whatever. No, gold and silver have always been the measuring stick, right? These things over any extended period of time have come and gone. And gold and silver, like you said, right, have been around for 5,000 years. I know you're running short on time, Lior. What did I forget to ask you? What else do we need to communicate with the audience today?
Well, I think if you're asking for some sort of a closing remark, my wife got a new cat. I don't know if you can hear that.
It's funny. I can hear it.
Oriental. It's an Oriental cat, and I didn't even know it was here. It's like a little puppy.
It's okay. You can show him to the audience if you want. It's funny because one of our cats
looks like a bat. You don't want to see that thing.
One of our cats broke into the basement during the first 3 minutes of our live stream, and I thought, oh God,
I've never had this before.
Knock the camera over or something. So,
well, I think that really, if you think about 2026, and what you have between a new Fed chairman that is going to rewrite, and it's not just the Fed chairman, it's the way the Fed works, it's the way the Treasury works, it's the way that America goes back to work. I think that you are heading into, if this is done right, into a prosperity period, not just for America, but for the rest of the world. Because for the last 30 years, America was selling its parts off. The elites were enjoying life, but the average American was going nowhere. He was becoming just a normal Westerner. He didn't have anything unique to bring to the table. He was sacrificed in endless wars in the Middle East. The rules changed on him on housing. He saw housing go down by 50%. He saw everything. If America goes back to greatness, that is great for everybody. When America is great, it's great for the world. It's even great for China and for Russia. So, come on. That's nuts. I'm sorry about this.
You're fine. That cat wants to have something to say, no doubt about it.
It might be looking for some silver under the mattress. Yeah. I think Ron, I'll let you go. And if you want to check out Wealth Research Group, three times a week, Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday, we publish 5 to 6 minute reads, including my personal portfolio, what I think about geopolitics. Thank you for that. What I think about geopolitics, where gold, silver are going, etc., etc. This is it. That's where you should subscribe. This is our 10th year running.
Yep. And again, guys, this is wealthresearchgroup.com. Great site and full of really super interesting articles. You can learn more about Lior there as well. Next time I talk to you, Lior, I want to talk about, I read your backstory, which was fascinating. I know you don't have time to go into it today, but you've led quite a interesting and successful life, and would love to hear more of that story and kind of what got you to where you are today. And I want to say thank you for joining me again, guys. This is Lior Gantz, the founder of Wealth Research Group. He reached out to me, one of his associates, Tuesday of last week, saying he wanted to come on today because he was concerned about the silver market, and his prediction was correct. And like you said, well, you don't want to be correct. You're a long-term silver, gold, copper bull, but you did a great job this time. I wish I'd listened to you, and I bet a lot of people do earlier last week. But I think the message that we got today is that long-term, the precious metals are still a great place to be. And thank you so much, Lior, for joining me on behalf of myself and all of our viewers. Big honor to have you on here, and thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, buddy. We'll see you next time.